Hey everybody, happy Friday. I hope that everyone had a good week and that you have an amazing weekend planned ahead. I feel like every time I come on here, I'm always saying the same thing, like, wow, it's been an eventful few days, but it always has been. It's always something new and something insane happening. So I don't even know where I'm going with this video, so it should be interesting. So I first want to address the whole community post made by BHB saying that she had a win in her court case with Queen Bee. Now, this is supposed to be a true crime community, so I would assume that everyone understands how, the law works and legal proceedings. We follow cases and we follow them to court and all of this. So you would think everyone would understand how everything goes, but apparently not. So there was no win for BHB. When you are in a legal battle like that, it's expected that discovery is going to be coming from both sides. They both knew discovery was going to be a thing. So her acting like this is some amazing thing that she fought for and won is completely deceptive. And I really think that she's just distracting from whatever happened in Sumner County, where 2 of her charges have been reopened that were previously closed. And I don't know what that's for. I don't know if it's related to the appeals. I don't know, but there was a definite change in the status of those at exactly the same time that she posted that community post. But to all the people that are out there touting that BHV's had a win against Queen Bee and the tides are turning, and no, that's part of the legal process and nothing big happened there. I also want to apologize for not putting out a video this past week. Life got a little hectic with kids and animals and just real life. So as much as some of my commenters want to claim, I do not live in YouTube land. I have a real life with things that are happening, and I took care of that first. So I do have several videos that are going to be completed soon, I hope, and they're really good. So I hope everybody is being patient with me, and I really do apologize for that. The other thing I want to address is the new terms of service changes that people were claiming are going to put it into all the reaction and commentary and criticism. It's actually geared more towards like shorts, and it's really more about monetization and not being monetized for repetitive content. And they're looking, their shorts have become more popular now on YouTube. And there are people that are taking clips of like a TV series and just cutting out a short clip of that and using it as a short. So it's things like that, reused content of that nature that doesn't have any commentary, that they're going to stop monetizing. It wasn't even that they're going to be taking it down. It was more about monetization. So it wasn't like a huge change. It was a small thing that they added. And it's also geared more towards AI produced videos too. So they aren't taking away our First Amendment right to have opinions. We are allowed to come onto a public platform, go to a public live stream, watch a public figure speak, and then have our own opinion on it. We are allowed to watch someone and decide if we like them, if we dislike them, what we dislike about them. And then we're allowed to speak that. As long as we are not threatening or maliciously doxing people, we can have an opinion. BJ has repeated many times on her channel that she is a grown up and she can say what she wants to say. And she's not responsible for what her chat says. And she's not responsible for what her panel guests say. But yet she wants to dictate what other channels talk about and what their chats are saying and what their panel guests are saying. And I'm going to say again with BJ, you can't have it both ways. It's one or the other. And whenever she was in the middle of the Sebastian Rogers case and they were talking about Chris and Katie, especially when the Texas Roadhouse video came out, which was right around Sebastian's birthday and Christmas, probably the worst time of the year for her. Her chat was horrific with the things they said about Chris and Katie. I mean, horrific. And this is the mother and stepfather of a missing child. So I don't want to hear that the comments in other people's chats are too harsh for her right now, because they were terrible to the parents of a missing child. I think in social media, we get into these areas where people that have morals and ethics struggle to do what's justified as opposed to what isn't. Whenever there's a situation happening, I can look at it and say, I don't agree with that. That's going too far. And I can voice that. But then there's things that I hear other people being passionate about, and I'm looking at it and I'm like, I just don't see it that way. And we have a large community of people that are all having similar struggles in their heads. And there's a lot of emotion going on. There's a lot of people dealing with their own traumas as they're listening to people exploit traumas. I don't know if that makes sense at all, but I think that we all have our own set of morals based on what we have experienced in our lives and what traumas we have and how much we've healed from those traumas. So for me personally, whenever I look at BJ, she triggers a lot of things in me that make what is going on right now justified to me because of the things that I've heard her say, things that I've heard her accuse people of, the things I've watched her lie about. The gaslighting for me is extremely triggering, and BJ is very obvious about gaslighting because you will literally listen to something, hear the words coming from her mouth, and then 5 minutes later, she's telling you that you didn't hear that. She didn't say it. And, in that instance, it's easy to see what she's doing. But having been in an abusive relationship where the gaslighting was also very extreme, but not like so obvious in your face, because I didn't realize until out of the relationship that I was being gaslit the entire time. So having her try to make people question their reality is triggering, and it's crazy to do to your audience. And it's crazy because she knows people are watching and recording, but she still does it. In my mind, I'm trying to figure out is she actually forgetting what she just said because she's making stuff up as she goes? Or is she purposely doing it because what she said before she didn't mean to say or didn't want to say, and she's going back and trying to replace it with another truth and not putting enough thought into it that, people are going to realize what I just said. So the gaslighting from her is one of the biggest issues I have. And if you watch my prior videos, you also know that BJ constantly talking about Clue's ex is a big issue for me. It's triggering and it's wrong. That is just something you do not continue to talk about. And the fact that she wants to keep saying, this has nothing to do with her daughter. I'm not talking about her daughter. Nobody's talking about your daughter, is infuriating. And she will not stop to listen from a victim's perspective, how it feels to have that talked about over and over again. I don't care if you're talking about the perpetrator. It affects the victim. And when BJ says that she has been dealing with this for a year, that she's gone a year without saying anything and a year without pursuing anything, is a lie. She is referring to when Nonsense started covering her. And Nonsense did not start out covering BJ specifically. She started covering the misinformation of the Sebastian Rogers case. Nonsense didn't know who BJ was until she started really looking at her when she was attacking Chris and Katie. And, even at that time, Nonsense went onto her panel to try to explain why she has a problem with the coverage that she is doing and the way that she speaks about Chris and Katie. And BJ could not hear it. She couldn't. And she even then started calling Nonsense ugly and big-nosed, all of the things, whenever Nonsense had purely been reviewing her as a true crime creator, speaking on the parents of a missing child. And so you also have to think that whenever Nonsense started covering her, the whole lawsuit thing was not even a thought at that time. Now, apparently it was a thought to BJ as far as Granny goes, because she was talking to CJ about wanting to get a group together to go legal against Granny, like in April of last year. So, but as far as Nonsense knew, there was nothing legal going on. She was simply reviewing pretty much all of the Green team and how they were talking about Chris and Katie, and also was not putting blame on Seth. But you had BJ at that time kind of pairing up with Seth and talking to him and becoming biased. And at that point, she started lashing out at anybody that spoke negatively about Seth. And the thing was that people were not accusing Seth the way that people were accusing Chris and Katie. People were mainly speaking about his personality and the things that they didn't like about what he was saying. And so whenever you talk to BJ about how she spoke about Chris and Katie, she will keep telling you she didn't accuse them of anything. She never implied anything. She simply talked about she didn't like Chris for the way that he treated Sebastian. Well, a lot of people didn't like Seth because of the way that he talked about and treated Sebastian. So, and that's what they talked about. There wasn't straight accusations against Seth coming out. It was more about he had been on so many different creators' platforms at that time and had said so many odd and perverted things that that's what people were talking about. And it pissed BJ off. And that's when she started lashing out at creators that were not speaking glowingly of Seth. So the whole saying that she has been going through this for a year, she's been viciously attacked for the past year, is false. That's just part of her contributing to her victim status. So Nonsense started reviewing her and the Green Team, the group of putting out misinformation. And then once Nonsense went onto her panel and confronted her, then BJ really took offense to that and started going at Nonsense. And so she returned it, but everything wasn't about BJ. She was still doing a series on how misinformation is put out and the whole Green Team formation. So she was doing other things than BJ. And then BJ started the whole interaction with Clue by trying to get creators to quit speaking to Clue, siding with Clue, watching Clue, by bringing up repeatedly that she had used the F slur to everyone and trying to get everyone to turn against her and speaking about her and streaming her content. And Clue had told her 2 separate times, look, I don't know who you are. Just stop talking about me and this will be done. No harm, no foul. Just quit talking about me, quit streaming my stuff. She couldn't do it. And so Clue added on starting to talk about BJ here and there back in, I think it was June of last year. And again, she was not just focused on BJ at that time. She was doing the Sebastian Rogers stuff and going on searches and doing all of that. Okay. So the lawsuit comes out in October. And then everybody watched the Queen Bee thing play out before your eyes. And that was something separate from Nonsense, something separate from Clue. That was something between BJ and Queen Bee. And that involved the whole FOIA thing and all of that happening. Okay. So that's how that started. But the actual going at her where there are streams every day about her, that didn't start till maybe 4 months ago. And it is only because BJ keeps ramping up instead of backing down, instead of stopping, instead of apologizing, instead of taking accountability. She just keeps going. So Granny has known for years who BJ is and what she does, how much she gaslights, how much she lies, how much she flips things. And she has tried to show this in the past, and she has always come out looking like the bad guy because BJ plays the victim so well. Well, now suddenly there's multiple creators she's doing the same thing to all at once. So the realization of who she is happened to many creators at one time. And so as long as she was going at them, they were going to go back. And it wasn't like she was going live and saying, you ugly big nose bitch. That's not all she was doing. Okay. She's accusing people of being pedophiles. She's accusing people of being obsessed with her children. She's accusing people of stalking her children. She's accusing people of being child predators and doing inappropriate things to children in their homes. She was accusing Granny of being part of a criminal enterprise. Like, these are major things to be putting on people, okay? And she, at one time, had a pretty big audience on her true crime channel where she's going live, doing all this drama and putting out all of this stuff about other creators in the community. So, yes, it was going to be addressed. And the people that don't agree with it, just don't watch it. If it was being levied on you, the things that are being put on these creators, you would respond too, I guarantee it. This kind of misconstruing of time is also evident in things she says, like when she decided to go over the chat comments in her stream last night. And she got to Alabama Mama, and she says, oh, here she is. She's always pregnant, but she's up here talking about so-and-so. And the way she said it was like implying that she's had one pregnancy after another. Well, no, because you haven't been gone at for a year. She has been pregnant during the time that Jay and Clue have been talking about you, because it hasn't been that long of a time. So yeah, she's been pregnant that whole time, one pregnancy. because it hasn't been over a year that you've been dealing with this, BJ. But that's how she puts things out. And the way she said it, I was like, are you kidding me? She is acting like Alabama Mama has had multiple pregnancies in this time period. No. And I wholeheartedly disagree with what BJ did last night by pulling up the entire chat and going through each comment and the commenter's name one by one and picking out the ones that were most offensive to her. I don't believe that chatters should be targeted whenever they're just putting out their opinions. You know, I did some videos about comments made against Chris and Katie Proudfoot whenever there was so much coverage of the Sebastian Rogers case. There was some horrible things being said about Chris and Katie and about Katie's past. And I made videos where I announced who the creator was, but I blurred out the chatters' names because I did not want them targeted. So yes, I posted comments, but nobody knew who made those comments because I blurred it out. I don't agree with targeting chatters at all. And then to say that any comment that had the word kid in it was dog whistling for CPS is crazy. So now we can't mention the word kid or we're dog whistling for CPS to be called to our house. If we say, I feel bad for those kids not being able to play outside during the day. I feel bad for those kids not going on vacation. Whatever. She's taking that and going, oh, look, they're dog whistling for CPS. Look at this. No, that's not the case. We don't call CPS. We've told you that many times. And again, I'm going to say, you're not the only creator that has had CPS called on him. You want to talk about Natasha Cooper. You've referred to her and how she was targeted. Do you not remember her repeatedly saying she'd had CPS called 67 times or some bullshit like that? There's lots of creators that have CPS called on them. And just because the word kid is mentioned in a chat where BJ is being discussed doesn't mean anybody is dog whistling for CPS. So that shit needs to stop. I'm sorry. Nobody should be calling CPS, referencing CPS, anything like that. And we are allowed to have our opinions about things without it being a dog whistle or virtue signaling. And I hear her going through these comments and she's like, y'all don't give a shit about my feelings. Y'all don't care how I feel. BJ, you don't care about other people's feelings. Even the people that were mods for you, that were close to you. Even Nana, when her husband passed, you don't care about other people's feelings. Don't come on here and try to shame people for not being sensitive to your feelings when you can't even be considerate of those close to you, much less the creators that you're levying these harsh accusations against. So no, I don't feel bad for you. I don't consider your feelings when I'm making a video because I'm simply putting out the truth about what you're doing and what you say. Whenever you start considering other people's feelings, maybe I'll start considering yours. And I don't wish harm upon you. You know, unlike Craig, who sat back there and said that he prays for us to be destroyed, that he prays for harm to come to us, simply because we don't like you and we don't agree with the things you're doing. He is praying for us to be destroyed. We don't do that over here. I don't wish harm upon you. I wish that you would realize what you're doing and do better, but I don't wish harm on you. I really wish BJ would quit saying that people want her children taken from her, because that is not true. We do not wish that upon anyone. You know, there's a lot of people in this community that were adopted or came from foster families, and they know what the system is like, and they would never wish that upon anyone. And a lot of us come from families where we co-parent, and we believe that a child should have both parents in their lives, and would always wish that it was with parents that are together. That's the best thing. A lot of us wish that you would take more initiative to do things with them. You know, you've mentioned that you live an hour from the beach, but y'all never go. You know, it'd be great to do that, or take the kids to that safari you were talking about. But are we saying we want your kids taken? No. And I don't know why that's even still being brought up whenever Dark Horse just called CPS, you've had a visit and it was fine, right? So quit saying that. You're using that as something to incite hate towards us, and it's not true. You know, the bottom line is anything that we know about BJ's life is something that she has put out onto a public platform. She has put out all of her children's names, ages, nicknames, last names, all of that herself. Nobody has ever doxed her children. She willingly put all that out. She has put out information about things they like, things they do. Anything we know about her kids, it's because she's told us. We know about Craig through her. We know about Craig from what he has said in the background and his channels, public channels. We know about things in her house because of her. We know about cats because of her. All of this she puts out. Nobody has to dig into her to know anything. So I'm also tired of the thing where she's saying people are digging into her kids. No, BJ, you have put out everything that is known about your kids. You have put it out. You. So I guess in closing, I just want to say the people that are coming to her, BJ's defense right now and thinking that she's dogpiled, I just want you to remember how easily she lies, that I literally have shorts where she will say something and 10 minutes later will say that she never said it. If she will lie about something that simple, why wouldn't she lie about the big things? Once my videos come out, you'll see that her timeline is completely skewed. It has not been going on for over a year. She has had back and forth here and there with these creators over the past year, but it has not been going at her every day for the past year. That has not happened. She greatly enhances things to make it look like she has it worse than everyone else. Anything that is done to her is the worst that's ever been done. Unfortunately, all these things happen to creators. She has been a part of doing this to other creators, and she knows it. There was one creator in particular that she is now friends with, but at the time she had dated someone from YouTube. It had not worked out, and she was getting a lot of backlash where she was actually coming on streams and crying about it. And BJ actively participated in getting her private messages from a close friend, an ex-close friend, proceeding to do a dramatic reading of her text messages on someone's live stream where this woman was saying how insecure she was about her weight, about her looks. And as they were reading out these very private messages, they were mocking her looks. And BJ was every bit a part of that. And this was someone who was in the midst of feeling very attacked and crying on stream about it. And BJ did the same with Granny. She didn't care. She participated, and it was great because it was someone she didn't like. And I also hope everyone remembers that when there is so much emotion and hurt and anger swirling around in the community, that people do make mistakes and things happen that aren't intended. And what matters is what you do with that. If you can realize it was wrong, apologize, take accountability, and learn from it. And that's all we can do. We can't change what's happened, but we can change what we do with what happened. So I guess in conclusion, everybody just has to decide what they're okay with. You have to live with where your moral boundaries are, and don't let people push you into going over the line, what your personal line is. I think a lot of people have forgotten how a lot of this started. And I think a lot of people have forgotten about the RICO lawsuit and how egregious that was, and how it was literally announced on the news that if Sebastian isn't found or something happens to him, that Granny would have blood on her hands, and that the whole RICO suit was based off of a missing child's name, all for revenge. And I think people have forgotten that because the RICO part has been so quiet for so long now. But we can't let go of that. We can't forget how wrong that was, and that it could have been literally anyone in the community. And BJ was the reason that Granny was chosen. So before you jump to a conclusion about what is happening to BJ and why, try to take in all of the situation, everything that has happened and how it's happened, and check receipts. Her timeline's not accurate. I wouldn't believe anything she says because she lies about everything. So get receipts. If you hear her say something that upsets you, make sure it's actually happened before you believe it. Don't be like her and believe everything that comes into the chat, because people want to stir stuff up and they'll do that on purpose. So I hope everybody has a good weekend, and I really, really hope to have videos out soon, and I apologize again. I'll talk to y'all later.